Hello, and welcome to another episode of That Made Your List, a weekly podcast where an average, ordinary film fan, me, interviews other average, ordinary film fans. My name is Dave Budger, and joining me on the podcast this week, we've got Steven Billings. Hello, Steven.
How you doing, David? Sorry. Fudging the names.
Yeah.
I got too many things on my mind right now. Dave, how you doing, man?
I'm really good, thank you, really good. Okay, so before we get started, why don't you tell us, myself and the listeners, a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, I'm from North Carolina, and I was just telling you a second ago. I found out about this show through Dan Skip Allen, who's come on, and I used to do some stuff with him, and over the years I used to work at a movie theater. Since then I've went on to do some of my own kind of podcasting type of stuff. I've done a show that's on YouTube called Film Club Movie Show, and hopefully soon a new podcast called Cinema Discovery Project, which will kind of focus more on like foreign films and classic films and stuff that just doesn't get enough attention in my opinion. So,
okay, yeah, fantastic. Right, okay, right. We'll start off with these then. Obviously, the same 20 questions that everybody else gets asked. We'll start up at the top with one of the most difficult that most people find is, what's your favourite film?
Well, like everybody, I mean, it is difficult, man. I mean, this is such a thing that can just change every day, Yeah. Like I always, but honestly, I kind of have like a standard answer for most people that ask me, and that's a movie from 1997 called L.A. Confidential.
Oh,
and,
yeah, good film.
Yeah. I'm a bit. My favorite genre is film noir, and when I first saw this movie, it of course drew me in because the cast is ridiculous.
Yes.
You got unfortunately Kevin Spacey's in it, but he is great in this movie.
Yes.
And Russell Crowe, Guy Pearce, Kim Basinger. I mean, it's so many great actors and actresses in this movie. And on top of that, being a film noir, a neo noir set in like the 40s, 50s, crime. Dirty cops. It just has everything that I love about cinema in one movie, and unfortunately it got beat out by Titanic in the year of Best Pictures. Yes. And that still upsets me, but but it's one of my it's definitely the one is my go-to answer for most people.
Yeah, no, absolutely. As you say, it's directed by Curtis Hanson, who I think it's quite confidently say he never reached the heights of this.
Not really.
His two best known ones before this was Hand That Rocks the Cradle, which I always remember was really quite a creepy psychological and horror. Was that?
Yeah, what's funny is I saw that as a kid, which is not a movie kids should be watching.
No.
But it's a weird movie. But yeah, he never really got there like that film ever again.
No.
And he unfortunately passed, I think, a year or two ago.
I didn't know.
Yeah.
It's they say beat out by Titanic. It's won 2 Oscars. Yeah, won 2. It won Best Supporting Actress for Kim Basinger and Best Previously Published Screenplay. So it got some love at the Academy with 6 other nominations as well. So.
Most people don't know this, but this movie's based on a novel, and it's a series of novels, and they've actually done another movie of one of the novels, and it's called The Black Dahlia.
Black Dahlia, yes.
Which is not nearly as good, but
Yeah, it goes all together there. As you say, the cast is absolutely stellar cast. Even as you say, persona non grata at the moment, Kevin Spacey, but in this, you can't deny that he is absolutely standing out. What was really bizarre for what is essentially a period American piece, you've got 2 Australians in the lead roles.
Yeah,
Russell Crowe and Guy Pearce, who were relatively unknown as well over in the States at that time as well.
This was very much in the beginning of their careers before they really started to hit it big. Guy Pearce, Memento was a couple years later, and Russell Crowe with like The Insider with Michael Mann, and of course his big streak of great Oscar-nominated movies of The Beautiful Mind and Gladiator, and he hits it big a couple years later.
No, absolutely. But then the cast is fantastically filled out by what I call, it's that guy from that thing.
Yeah.
It's obviously James Cromwell and Danny DeVito aside. You've got the likes of Ron Rifkin, who you recognise. Like, what's he in? And but the cast is just filled out so well with people like that. It really is. Despite it being top heavy with those three there, it's very much they bring the ensemble into it. It's not just
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think the great thing about this cast is a lot of times when you have big actors all working in one movie together, a lot of times it feels like everybody's trying to steal some spotlight. But I think that this cast did a good job of helping each other make the movie better.
Yeah.
And that's why I consider it one of them perfect. If there's a perfect movie, it's one of what I consider to be a perfect movie. So.
No, absolutely, it's a good start. Good start. Okay, we'll move on then. So it's a little bit different. So what's the last film that you watched?
Well, I mean, this is a new one, and I, like I said at the beginning, I have a connection with the movie theater, so I got to see Deadpool 2 last night. Early. So, and nice. Of course, I won't spoil anything for anybody.
I'm seeing it on Monday. I'm seeing it Monday evening. I am. So.
Well, I think you'll really love it. If you love the first movie, you're going to get the great jokes. It's filled with self-referential humor, and they do take it up a notch in the sense of like the scale and the effects, but it still feels very personable to the Deadpool character, and I really enjoyed it. I think everybody will like it. So
yeah, superb. So I went to see with the original. It has such an amazing promo campaign to it.
Yeah, oh yeah.
I live Central England. I went down to London for my wife's birthday that weekend that was out, and I managed to sell her on seeing it on her birthday night on the fact of there was a Ryan Reynolds poster of him lying in a field of flowers and saying, it's a story of love.
Yeah.
And I showed that. I said, look, it's a love story. It's a Ryan Reynolds love story. We'll go. And yeah, she wasn't very happy.
Well, yeah, you can. What you can do with this one is apparently this movie's being thought of as a family film, so you can try to get your whole family to go to this one.
Yeah, I think I'll pass on that one. Okay, right. So we won't talk too much into that, obviously, because I don't think it's.
I don't like spoiling things. No. Yeah, I don't like spoiling things for people.
No, absolutely. Okay, so we'll move swiftly on. What's your favourite action film, action adventure?
God, there's so many great action films, adventure films, but to me, the one that just hits the hardest for me is Terminator 2: Judgment Day.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean it's Arnold, probably in his most recognizable role, and just it's to me it's unfortunately the Terminator kind of concept is almost hard to replicate multiple times to make a franchise, which is what they keep trying to do.
Yes.
And I think that they hit their peak with T2, obviously,
yes.
And because it's just hard to use that concept over and over again, and I just think that for I think it was 1991.
Yes, it was.
Yeah, the effects, and if you think about it, and this is what I always try to tell people, and whenever I can find somebody that hasn't watched the Terminator movies, what I try to do is I try to bring them in and like, look, don't listen to anything, don't read anything on the internet, because if you think about it, the first movie, the Arnold Schwarzenegger character is the bad guy.
Mm-hmm.
But back then, if you went into the second movie, you didn't know that the Schwarzenegger character was going to be the good guy, And I love that, just thinking about that, like that switch that happened.
Yes. Yeah, and they played on that well at the start there with him coming through, and obviously don't make out that he's a good guy in this one until a little way into it, and he's saving Edward Norton there and taking the shots at him. You don't realise at that point, you're like, oh yeah, hold on a minute.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's just such a great concept of killer robots coming from the future to kill one person, like to try to change the, and it's just badass.
No,
I love it, man.
Absolutely. It was the only Terminator film to be nominated for an Oscar, which is pretty obvious. There's only 2 decent ones anyway. So
yeah, yeah. I mean, James Cameron's the master of the action movie sequel. I kind of feel like. I mean, yeah, he just aliens this. He knows what he's doing, man.
No, absolutely. I remember on this production took so long on this that Edward Furlong's voice began to break. What during the film, they had to fix his voice in post production afterwards. It took that long for it. Yeah, really, really good. It's. I mean, I like sci-fi films. And I loved the first 2. I think it's just such a shame that the quality just fell off a cliff with the rest of the Terminator films.
Yeah, it's just like I said. It's just kind of tough. I mean, unless you have a plan, and James Cameron kind of leaves the franchise after the second one, and maybe for good reason. He kind of knew that he'd maybe not had nowhere to go with it, and then because these things are owned by big corporations, they franchise them out. And apparently he's coming back with Tim Miller, who directed the first Deadpool, to do a new movie. And I don't, we'll see. He supported the last one too, but that one sucked.
That one was not good. It was not good at all. Obviously, Arnold coming back on this as a massive star by the time this one comes out, rather than the just breaking into Hollywood really when the first one comes out. Was paid $15 million for this role for 700 words.
Woo!
Yeah. His thing of Hasta La Vista Baby cost $85,000. It's good work if you can get it.
It's a good line. It's a good line.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, that's great. Let's switch genres up a little bit though. What's your fauvorite horror?
All right, so this one's kind of tough, man. I mean, typically, to be honest, not many people really get scared of movies. I mean, we know they're fake.
Yep.
It's kind of hard to really genuinely get scared, but some people do have their anxieties, and I get that. The closest I get to that is a movie called The Descent, which my big fear is closed spaces. I'm not a big fear of. I have a big fear of being confined, and and just this is a movie about which is, I think, kind of ahead of its time, being basically a full female cast.
Mm-hmm.
They go cave diving.
Yep.
And spelunking, as they call it.
Yeah.
And they go through these very small crevices to just explore. And as they're down there, they find these cave dwelling, I guess once were human beasts that eat people.
Yep.
And it's terrifying.
No, absolutely. I mean, I love this film. This is one of the few horrors that I've actually got a copy of in my collection. I was shocked and really, really pleased to see it on the list, because I'd never expected anyone to come up with it. Especially since most of my guests are from the States, and this little independent film from the UK. I mean, it was filmed in Scotland and Palmer Studios in London. I absolutely adore this film. Really good, really good. Obviously directed by Neil Marshall, who again is another one that he did Dog Soldiers a couple of years before this, which was have you seen Dog Soldiers at all?
No, I haven't seen Dog Soldiers.
No, it's sort of I suppose it'd be the equivalent. It's UK based. It's the equivalent of the National Guard out on manoeuvres in the Scottish Highlands, and they're picked off slowly but surely by these werewolves that have come out of nowhere.
I like werewolf stuff.
Yes.
So yeah.
It's another one. It's not as good as The Descent. I think he whereas Dog Soldiers was before this. He mastered his thing on there. But since The Descent, he's worked his TV mainly, but he's been Game of Thrones. He's been directed Westworld.
Okay.
But yeah, Neil Marshall, the director himself, he was in line to do something else. I can't remember for the life of me.
I want to say he was maybe doing a Stephen King adaptation, or did he already do one?
No, I think he was in line with it. He was in line to do Predators in 2010 at one point.
Yeah. Now Shane Black's done it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yes. No, it's really, really good. Obviously, it's about half an hour into the film before you see the crawlers. I think that they actually call them, or something.
Well, like I said before, the cave diving was enough for me.
Yes. Yeah. And say spoiler alert going on here, because we've both seen it, and just warn those that haven't. Just skip forward a couple of minutes if you don't want to hear the spoilers on it. But the moment when you're there and they flick on the night vision on the camera, and they look behind them, and all you just see is a shadow and the white eyes. That's the part that got me absolutely. It's really, really atmospheric horror.
Dave, you gotta stop talking about it, man. We gotta move on.
Okay.
You're scared. No, I'm just kidding.
No, absolutely. One that I absolutely love, and I'm really, really pleased that someone's put a bunch on their list. Really pleased.
Awesome.
Okay. We'll flick it out of the horror, then we'll bring it back into the light. What's your favourite drama?
And once again, a very broad. It could be almost anything. But I wanted to take the moment to do a film that I really love, and it is a foreign film. It's a Japanese film from a very great director. His name's Masaaki Kobayashi, and it's called Hirakiri.
Oh, right.
And they've actually done a remake of this, and I think there's only one remake, and it was by Takashi Miike. But this is a fantastic movie about kind of a it's kind of hard to talk about without giving away things. It's one of the movies that kind of has a twist to it.
Okay.
But it's basically about this man, who comes to this. This group of samurai and wants to ceremonially end his life. That's what Hirakiri means.
Oh, yeah,
is the ceremonial taking of their life, where they cut their stomach open and then they cut off their heads.
It's seppuku as well.
Seppuku, yeah. And so a man comes there at the beginning of the story wanting to do that, and then they try to convince him that maybe it's not a good idea because somebody else did the exact same thing recently, and it went really wrong. And there's a lot more to the movie, but it is a very beautifully shot film. It's in black and white. The acting by Tatsuya Nakadai, the lead actor, is fantastic. He did a lot of movies with Akira Kurosawa, who's probably one of the great directors of all time. Mm-hmm. And it's I always tell people, foreign cinema, one of the first movies I tell them is Harakiri. It's a must see.
Okay, and so it won't be surprising. I've not seen it.
No, I'll tell you, man. Over, and this is part of, I was saying I'm hopefully going to do a podcast soon, to explore more movies like this. Yeah. But for me, it's only been the last couple years where I've really started to delve into more foreign stuff, classic stuff. Yep. And it's been fantastic, man. People need to open their eyes up because you have so many areas you don't have excuses anymore. It's not like back in the day where there's no access to this stuff. You can go on Netflix or you can go on Amazon or now Filmstruck, which is a great place to find stuff like this and watch these movies. Just give them a chance.
No, absolutely. Okay, no, it's good. Okay, we'll crack on then. We'll move on to what's your favourite comedy?
Comedy. This was tough, man. I had to separate some of these, man, because some of these other questions kind of conflict with others. Yeah. But and this one, the reason I chose this one is because I felt like it was one of the best ones of the last, 10, 15 years, and that's Tropic Thunder.
Okay,
Yeah, Ben Stiller directs it. He also stars with Robert Downey Jr., Jack Black, Danny McBride. This movie, it's one of the movies that's about making movies, which I really I love movies like that. And this is a movie where Robert Downey Jr. is in blackface and gets nominated for an Oscar.
Yes.
So, we couldn't get away with that now.
Good God, no.
Nobody's doing that movie today. And that's why I think it's a special movie. I think it pushes the limits. I think it's very clever. It's very quotable. I think everybody, still quotes the Downey Jr. stuff. smells like bologna for some reason. You know,
Yeah.
I'm a dude playing a dude disguised as another dude. You know, like
Yeah.
stuff like that. You know, like
Yeah. I mean, it's one of the ones in there which and I appreciate the commitment to it as well. It's again, it's Robert Downey Jr. in there. Is I don't drop character till I've done the DVD commentary.
oh yeah,
And
oh
on
yeah.
the audio
And-
commentary on the DVD
Yeah.
and the Blu-ray, he does it as the character. It's
I was gonna
absolute-
say it's the best one of the best commentaries I've ever listened to,
Mm.
where he's still in character.
yeah, no, absolutely. An almost unrecognisable Tom Cruise
Oh yes,
in there, who most, I mean, that whole, not the character itself, but the look and the sound and everything else. Ben Stiller left it to Tom Cruise. It was all Tom Cruise's ideas. The look and everything else came from Tom Cruise. on that
Yeah,
one.
Les Grossman. I'll tell you a little side story. Like the movie theater I worked at,
Yeah.
the first boss I had looks exactly like this guy, and it creeped me out the first time I saw this movie. I was like, wait a second, that is my old boss,
Yeah,
and he almost kind of acts like him, sort of in a sense. It's odd. It's very weird.
yeah,
But-
no, absolutely. It was instead of Matthew McConaughey's role was due to be Owen Wilson. But after Owen Wilson's attempted suicide, Ben Stiller just sort of obviously stood back and let him have some time to get
Yeah.
himself right. So I think that would have been. I can't imagine anyone else but McConaughey. Yeah, him playing it. Now it's. But yeah, really, really good. It's the Robert Downey Jr. when he's there. Obviously, that is such a. I can't.
Yeah.
Even now,
I mean,
can't believe
I love
he's
the
got away
beginning
with
of
it.
that. I love the beginning where they show the trailers
Yes.
for all the main characters' upcoming things.
Yeah.
And he's playing in some like homosexual priest film, you know, like thing going. I
Tobey
don't.
Maguire in that one as well.
Yeah,
Comes out-
best
yes.
kiss winner, MTV 2002, best
Yeah.
kiss winner. I mean,
No,
it's hilarious.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's just, I mean, Ben Stiller is kind of falling off the radar a little bit. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, I think he's went on to focus a little bit more on other aspects of filmmucking. Maybe
Yeah.
he did Walter Mitty, and I think he does a little bit more indie stuff now. I don't see him. He's not doing as much mainstream
Yeah.
like he used to. I think he finished up his Night of the Museums, and then after that, he's kind of fallen off the radar a little bit, doing like Brad Status.
Yeah, I mean, obviously,
while
he
we're
did,
young,
he did Zoolander 2, which
That was a
maybe
mistake.
he's hiding a little bit to try and get rid of the stink of that off him before he tries anything else.
yeah, that was
Yeah. But, okay, fantastic.
awesome.
On the same kind of strap as this, what's a film that makes you happy?
Well, you know, in this case, this is it's more about the subject matter, and it's more of like a sad happy. I would say like it's one of the movies that kind of makes me could make me cry. I'm not saying I cried.
Yeah.
Don't take that. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, but yeah, no, this movie has made me cry, but happy cry.
Yes.
And that's a movie called Field of Dreams.
Oh yes.
I love this movie. I grew up playing baseball, so baseball inherently just is something I understand.
Yep.
And then, you know, Kevin Costner is an actor, I think, that has this, genuine nature that he feels like the common man, so you can relate to him very easily.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you know, this is a movie ultimately about fathers and sons, and that's, you know, specifically at the end, spoiler for a movie that's like 30 years old, you know, where he, you know, finally the ghost of his father comes back and he asks him to play catch. I mean,
yeah.
it's just it brings me down, man, but in a good way.
Yeah.
Like, you know.
No, absolutely. Nominated for 3 Oscars. In this, I can't remember exactly.
I know it got Best Picture nomination.
Yes. I think it was screenplay and cinematography. I think, I'm not sure. I can't remember off the. But again, it's another one with a cast that surrounds it. Obviously, you've got Ray Liotta who plays Shoeless Joe.
Yeah.
And why am I blanking on Darth Vader?
Oh, James Earl Jones. Yeah. No, it's Darth Vader. It's Darth Vader.
Yeah, it's Darth Vader. That's how I picture him in my head, so I can remember him. I mean, my son would turn around and say, "No, he's Mufasa." But it's
no, he's everybody. Yeah,
yes, he is absolutely everybody to everyone. But yeah, the whole cast is another one that really just helped. Burt Lancaster's last film before he died. I mean, he was in his mid-70s when he filmed this.
Moonlight Graham.
Yes. Yeah. No, absolutely. Obviously we don't get a lot of baseball over here.
Yeah.
In the UK. But this, from what I remember, this was my sort of introduction to what baseball was. It is. I loved it when it came out and I watched it. I mean, I think it must have been on a VHS rental.
Yeah.
For over here.
For me, growing up, the baseball movies were Major League, and was this. This maybe Bull Durham a little bit later, which is another Kevin Costner film.
Yep.
And of course, like the kid ones, like Rookie of the Year and stuff like that. That's not really that great technically, but they're fun enough. But Field of Dreams has this. I think it captures really the magic of what baseball is, and it has this awe factor throughout the whole movie. The idea that this anonymous voice is speaking to you in a cornfield and asks you to do something, and you decide to do it is crazy. Which of course they think he's crazy, and his wife stands behind him, and they build this field, and it's one of them things of it's part of what makes you happy about it is that he's following this kind of a dream in a way. It's a Field of Dreams.
Yes.
I mean, he's following this idea that he doesn't. It's more on faith than it is on fact. And that's the kind of things that are inspiring to people. Is that when people do things out of faith and succeed. Yeah. And that's just why this movie is a happy movie for me.
No, absolutely. As you say, the voice that comes out of nowhere, if you build it, they will come, was voted number 39 by the American Film Institute in quotes.
Oh, yes.
So it's obviously it's one that is very much synonymous with the film. If you quote that, there's even people who don't know the game of baseball will know exactly what you're talking about. It has come out of the film itself and into normal pop culture.
Yeah, that and the speech by James Earl Jones at the end, there will come, Ray.
Yes.
There will most definitely come, Yeah.
The studio actually built a baseball diamond in the back of a farmhouse in Iowa.
I think it's still there.
Yeah.
I think it's still there, yeah.
The owners of the farmhouse at one point apparently had a little shack on where the team shed normally would be, just to sell souvenirs out of, and they let them have pitches and play a game for free on there. So it's really, really good.
That's awesome.
Yeah. One little thing that always makes me chuckle about this, I do know. Ben Affleck and Matt Damon were among the thousands of extras on the Fenway Park scene in there.
I'm sure they love that.
Yeah, uncredited extras in there, and obviously the director Phil Alden Robinson, who directed Ben Affleck in The Sum of All Fears.
Yes.
Ben Affleck came up to us and said, "Oh, it's good to work with you again." And Robinson was like, I've never worked with you. And he had to explain the fact that he was an uncredited extra in the Fenway Park. So,
how could he not know?
Absolutely, how could he not know this unknown actor and his best mate sitting next to him as an uncredited extra in the film?
Directors are so arrogant, man. And they don't.
Okay, right, we'll move on. We'll flip this on its head then. What's the film that makes you sad?
All right, so this is one of the saddest movies I've ever seen, but it is one of the greatest movies I think I've ever seen, and it's called Bicycle Thief. Bicycle Thieves.
Yes.
It's an Italian film, and it's directed by Vittorio De Sica, and it's ultimately, it's part of the Italian neorealism movement, and it's a movie basically about a man who is down on his luck. He's trying to get money for his family, and he finally scores this job, putting up posters throughout the city, then and the one thing he has to have to do his job is a bike, and then his bike is stolen from him. So he spends the whole movie trying to find his bike throughout the city. I know it sounds like this a movie? Like this is, but it really delves into that, how far you'll go to provide for your family. And I don't want to give away that, what goes down, but it's one of them movies that just, it pulls at your heartstrings the whole time.
Yeah.
The acting, the direction is all on point, and it really, it's a tough movie to watch. I've watched it twice.
Yes.
And I don't know the next time I will watch it, but I own it on the Criterion Collection, and it's definitely a must-see for any serious film fan.
Yeah. I've not seen it. This is not the first time I've heard it though, and I'm trying to rack my memory as to which other person has had this on their list. But someone has, because it may well have been Dan actually.
I don't think that was Dan.
Was it not?
I can tell you now.
Oh,
I don't even think Dan. I don't think Dan's seen this movie.
Oh.
I'm not going to give him that credit.
No, right, okay. Well, you know the guy.
Just messing with you, Dan.
Someone else has had it. I've not seen it. It is on the list because I've made ever since I started doing this. I mean, I thought I knew films. I do know reads.
No. And I never, and I'm not saying that anybody that hasn't seen this movie isn't a serious movie person, because there's a lot of movies I have not seen, and I'm trying my best to watch as many of them as possible before I die. Yeah. So,
no, absolutely.
So, I mean, but this is an easy watch. It's only 89 minutes long, so it's a good brisk watch, and it's a very beautiful movie yet sad movie.
Yeah, as I say, it's. I've got a list. I mean, I'm looking at the list now of films that other people have recommended and have realised that it's a hole in my knowledge. It's on the list already, so someone has mentioned it.
Cool. I mean, I've listened to all your episodes. I'm surprised I didn't realise that, but I've listened to all your episodes, so yeah.
Okay. Right. Okay, then. We'll move on then. Name a film that you practically know the entire script of. Okay,
so this one kind of competes. This technically probably is my favorite comedy.
Yep.
But because I know this movie so well, I decided just to throw it in this one because I really know this movie. Like literally, people at work hear me quoting this movie all day, and that is Coming to America.
Oh yes.
Yes. This to me, this is Eddie Murphy's crowning achievement for me. I think this is kind of what I think popularized the idea of, I mean, of course, people had done it before, but playing multiple characters in one movie it was something that Eddie Murphy just really killed in this movie. He plays at one point he plays a preacher. He plays a barbershop owner. He plays he plays the main character of Akeem. And this is basically a fairy tale. This story of a man from another country coming to America to find his bride, his princess.
Yes.
And it's God. I can't even explain it to you. I could sit here and just do the whole script for you if you really want me to. Do we have an hour and 40 minutes to?
You'd only just be going over onto the longest episode if you did.
Sure. Okay. Well, I could just do the barbershop scene because I can do all the characters in the barbershop. That's how crazy I am. Because my parents had this on VHS, and I watched this as a kid multiple times, and I'm brainwashed, and I thank you, parents.
No, absolutely. Yeah. It's really, really good. There's a couple of parts of it that makes me cringe a little bit. It says, where should we go? And he's got the globe, just a globe, and he spins it, and it stops it. We'll go there. We're going to find a queen. We're going Queens. But you're looking at a whole globe. You're not seeing Queens when you're pointing like that. You just see. You'd be lucky if you see New York if you're pointing on the globe.
Well, I mean, they're either going to Los Angeles or New York on the globe, and then when they get to New York, they ask the cab driver, "What's the most common part of what's the best place to find a wife or whatever? Go to Queens, of course. That has to be the place where I can find my wife." And it's hard to talk about this movie without getting very vulgar, because it is a vulgar movie.
It is, yes.
But there is some great comedy in this movie, and I mean, it's the only way I could really get into it is to just actually act it out for you right now, but I won't. I won't because that might be a little bit too crazy for a podcast. So
yeah. So what's your opinion on the sequel that's being mooted about?
Well, we like we talked about with Zoolander earlier.
Yeah.
It typically isn't a good idea to do a sequel to a movie that was made many years earlier. Like and this is even further than a Zoolander or an Anchorman, which I think Anchorman 2 is not that bad, but some of the sequels to these movies are just unjustified and just chances to make some money. And in this case, I don't know if this is being made because they have a good idea or because they think they can make some money, or Eddie Murphy needs a way to get himself back into the zeitgeist of everybody's minds.
Or
I don't know.
Of three.
I mean, yeah, he hasn't really done much lately. He did Mr. Church, and I liked Mr. Church okay, but I mean that was a very different type of movie than what we know of Eddie Murphy. So I don't know, man. I'm not big. I mean, to me, I'll still have the original, but
Yeah, there is that. I mean, you don't necessarily if it's no good, you watch the original again. It's not too good. For me, one of the major standout in it is Big Mick, the Big Mix. When he says, they have the golden arches, I have the golden air.
Yeah,
it's just
they're called McDowell's instead of McDonald's.
Yes, yeah, it's that part always made me laugh. So much so, and again, I was flicking through Facebook the other month or a couple of months ago, and my work colleague turned around and says, you got to see this, searching there, and someone in America, in New York, has made Big Mix, has done a McDowell's.
Yeah, I heard about that. Yeah, I was very tempted to jump on a plane.
Yeah. I wasn't sure if it was because it was around that time that they'd announced doing the sequel.
Yeah.
So I don't know if they just got a McDonald's and says, "Can we just make it into a McDowell's just for this promotional video?"
I was going to say, I think the original McDowell's that they used in the movie, that's what they did. They dressed up an old McDonald's or some other food franchise to make that, and I mean, they might have just re-renovated whatever was the old building or something. I don't know, but that man, there's so much about this movie, man. I mean, just there's little moments like where Daryl, the one that's dating the girl he's trying to woo, and throws a milkshake and hits him. Take care of this, Murphy. Throws the milkshake and it gets all over Eddie Murphy, and then Arsenio Hall just laughs at him and then kind of just sorry.
Yeah.
Just stuff like that, Soul Glow.
Yes.
Like I said, the preacher that Eddie Murphy plays. The Black Awareness Rally. The first time they go out to find dates. They go to this club, and there's like all these different types of women that are just something weird about them.
No, absolutely. It's I've lost where I was going with that. Then that was it. It was another film, back-to-back films, or not quite close films, with another one with James Earl Jones in it. Obviously, as the king.
Yes, that was on purpose. Yeah.
Director John Landis. I mean, I'm a massive lover of the Blues Brothers. I love that film.
I like it okay. It's not my favorite.
Yeah.
Of the SNL kind of. I'm more of a. Probably because I'm a little bit young. I'm younger than you. I grew up on the Wayne's World and the '90s boom of SNL members in their movies. With the Chris Farleys and things like that. So Blues Brothers, I think it's fine. I don't. It's just not. I'm not as big with it.
Yeah. But, I mean, I think it's the music more than anything that keeps me with it. I am big enough to say it's not the best or most well acted films. Obviously, it's just set piece drive, and but it's I mean,
and then they made a sequel to that one.
Yeah, well, we'll leave that one alone.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah.
You had to mention that.
I'm sorry. My bad.
Yeah. But no, I mean, John Landis. He's a guy that's done some very, very good comedies as well. I mean, the Three Amigos, I absolutely love the Three Amigos. Spies Like Us as well. There's another one of it that I really like.
Also very diverse. He did a Werewolf in London.
Of course he did, yes.
Yeah, has one of the best werewolf transformations.
Oh,
ever.
Even today,
yeah.
No, absolutely. And then obviously it's Trading Places, so he's worked with Eddie Murphy previous to this, so he knew. Yeah,
Trading Places is another one, man. I watched a lot growing up. That and for
love.
multiple reasons. I mean, I was a young kid, and there was an actress in that movie that shows some things, and that was the reason I watched it many times.
No problem. For me, in that one, it was the very opening part of Lethal Weapon.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Before, just in case my parents start listening to this and I get embarrassed next time I see them,
Guys,
move on.
We're not getting very descriptive here. If you don't get it, I'm sorry, but we're human, okay?
Absolutely. Okay. I mentioned John Landis there, who's a really good director. But who's your favourite director?
All right, so, and I've heard this a lot through your other guests, Spielberg. Yeah, Spielberg's a great director, and he's probably ultimately maybe my favorite director. Mm-hmm. But other than on the, kind of going a different pathway, another director that really speaks to me that I think he's got such a interesting filmography, and that is Richard Linklater.
Okay.
And I just think that he has a way of people like to talk about, writers like Quentin Tarantino has a very specific type of dialogue that people love and things like that. I think Linklater has a similar thing with his films where his movies have a very naturalistic feel to them, and he writes about himself a lot. I mean, some people might find that indulgent, but he takes a lot from his own experiences, and I think that is what really makes his films feel authentic. Whether you're talking about the Before trilogy, which is one of the best trilogies I think ever made. It's a romantic kind of entanglement, romantic kind of will they or won't they trilogy.
Yeah.
Films like he goes from small films like that to doing something like School of Rock.
Yes.
Which is a great movie.
Love that film.
Oh yeah, when that came out, man, I watched that on repeat forever. I still have the DVD. Jack Black's awesome in that movie.
Yes.
And then he's also been kind of a Oscar contender type filmmaker with films like Boyhood. Which is a very, if anything, some people don't like that movie, but if anything, it's an exercise in patience because he shot the movie over 12 years and had the patience to do that. And the discipline, and was able to put a film together that made sense over 12 years.
Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy. I mean, he's a director that cares about, he likes to talk about the passage of time, and that's a big thing with him. Of course, Dazed and Confused.
Yeah, everybody. That's his one that most people, when you say Richard Linklater, that'll be the one that most people will remember him for. I think that and School of Rock, maybe the two of them.
Yeah, he's a very diverse filmmaker. I mean, he also did a spiritual sequel to Dazed and Confused, Everybody Wants Some, which I really like that movie. I honestly have a hard time between the two, and I know that might be sacrilege to a lot of people, but like I said, I'm a baseball guy, so Everybody Wants Some follows this college baseball team.
Yeah. So
for me, it just has a little bit more of a relatable factor to it. But I think with Dazed and Confused, because it has so many big stars that weren't stars yet in it, including Ben Affleck, which we've talked about.
Yeah.
Matthew McConaughey. Matt Dillon, I think, is in there. Maybe I'm thinking of somebody else. Probably no. I'm mixing up Matt Dillon and Ben Affleck.
Yeah.
That movie gets a little bit more of a praise because of the amount of stars that are in that movie, but I think maybe down the line, maybe Everybody Wants Some will be, the same thing. Maybe I know Tyler Hoechlin that is in that movie is now playing Superman on TV.
Yes.
So it's like that, But he also has other films like Bernie with Jack Black, which is about a true life like a murder movie.
Oh, I've not seen that one.
It's a weird one, yeah. Also, Scanner Darkly is another one, which is an interesting movie.
That's the best way I can think to describe it. It's an interesting movie.
It's interesting. It's a it's an experimental movie with the animation.
Yeah, the old stereoscope animation on it.
Yeah. It's like it's like drawn, but then it's like
it's almost filmed, but then drawn over the top of it.
Yeah, it's very interesting. It's got Robert Downey Jr. I think Val Kilmer's in there.
Yeah.
It's a weird one, but it's worth checking out.
Yeah, that's got is it Keanu as well in that?
Yeah, Keanu Reeves is in there.
Yep. Yeah, no, really, really good. Okay, it's for a guy that's there and says he's been nominated for 5 Oscars between directing, writing, and Best Picture, but not picked up one yet. Not picked up the
and that's fine with me. There's a lot of great filmmakers that have never won an Oscar. I mean, Hitchcock never won an Oscar, so I mean, there you go.
No, absolutely. Okay then, so coming away from that a little bit, then, what's your favourite film from your childhood?
Oh man, this. I was glad to be able to put this one on here because this one could have been my makes me happy one.
Yeah.
And that's Mrs. Doubtfire.
Okay.
This movie, man. Well, first of all, and we'll probably get it. Well, I don't want to talk about this yet. But Robin Williams is awesome.
Yes.
He's to me one of the greats, and once again, somebody that's kind of dressing up like something else in the movie. Kind of like Tootsie. Back with I'm forgetting his name.
Dustin Hoffman.
Dustin Hoffman.
Yes.
Just kind of like that, a male dressing up like a female. But in this case, and it's what I love about a lot of the 90s family films is that family films of the 90s weren't scared to talk about tough subjects whilst entertaining kids and adults. This movie kind of being about, a divorce. It's about, family being torn apart.
Yep.
And then, the love of this father that loves his kid so much does the most insane thing to try to keep his family together, or at least keep be close to his kids. And it's just such a heartwarming, hilarious, just Robin Williams, to me, being able to go full Robin Williams. And also this is directed by Chris Columbus, who went on to do, the first couple Harry Potter films.
Yeah. Yes.
Did Home Alone. He's got a great stack of movies there in his filmography. But, I just always really love this. It's another one I quote a lot. I love my favorite kind of like thing in the movie, that little joke in the movie, was when he's talking with Sally Field, and they're having this intimate conversation, and he's asking Robin Williams, Mrs. Doubtfire, about her husband,
yes.
Winston. And Winston apparently was a drinker, and she thought it meant that he drank himself to death, and she's like, oh no, he got hit by a Guinness truck.
Yeah.
So it was actually literally the drink that killed him.
Yeah.
Stuff. I love that joke, and just many other moments like that.
No, absolutely. And obviously Pierce Brosnan playing the new man in the life.
Yeah, in his James Bond heights at the time.
Yeah, absolutely. The line that always gets me, and the one that I do always think of, is the drive-by fruiting.
Yeah.
As they're walking by the pool there, and she, the bar, and having a drink. Oh yeah, give me another smack back of the head. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely to me. Sally Field, obviously, as the mum in this, was again. It's you can't put a finger anywhere that say this has got a bad cast. That's not right. That's not quite right. It really did. It ticked every box for a family film.
Yeah.
Won best Oscar. Oscar for best makeup, which is not really a surprise.
Oh yeah, that's not a surprise.
You could look at that and you could not see Robin Williams there. No.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's a great performance, and just it's one of the movies that just, I think, continue. Whenever I heard that they were talking about doing another one, I was like, nah, it's just,
especially not now.
Well, of course not now. We can't do it now,
No.
but but even when Robin Williams was still alive, they were starting to talk about it, and I was like, nah, just leave this one alone, please.
Yeah, you don't.
Yeah.
It's not needed. It's not needed. Okay, fantastic. So, on the same kind of trip as that, I mean, what's your favourite animated film?
Well, this was one that I decided to kind of lean into my obvious answer, which I think is an answer that a lot of people have had also, and that is Toy Story.
Okay.
This is a movie that, where I kind of almost grew up with Andy, the main kid in the movie, and it just has played a special, part in, my growing up. There's videos of me as a kid walking around with two movies in my hand.
Yeah.
The big shell cases, VHSs that they used to have. One was The Lion King, and the other hand was Toy Story.
Yeah.
And them were the two that I really just wore out as a kid, and still have them today. I have the Blu-rays, so it's they're ones that I finally pop in whenever I can and rewatch it. And even though I think that the other two Toy Stories are fantastic as well, I still look at the first one as being the one that really just captured my imagination the most. Because and that's just how it is with a lot of first movies in any series, whether it be Rocky, or movies that really give you the beginnings of everything. To me, is what has the most magic.
No, absolutely. It's I'm of the mind of you. It's as good as Toy Story 3 is at closing the trilogy and heart wrenching and almost bringing you to tears on that, especially the moment when they're at the smelter in 3.
It did bring me to tears. Okay, I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, no, me too.
It got me.
Don't get me wrong, me too. But you don't get that without the majesty of the first one. If that first one doesn't bring you into those characters, and it's all the characters. It's not just Buzz and Woody. It's Rex and Ham and Potato Head and Slinky. If you're not bought into those, then that part of 3 is just a throwaway scene.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, to think that back then, obviously back in '95, that you'd have an actor that the quality of Tom Hanks in an animated film voicing a cartoon character, almost unbelievable. I mean, it's
Tim Allen was a big deal at the time too.
Yes, he was.
With the Tool Show and Santa Claus and
It's a the Pixar film directed by John Lasseter, who unfortunately is the second time this is
another
someone that's not really can be talked about in very nice ways at the moment, which is a shame because his body of work again through all the Pixar work.
Yeah, the early Pixar days, with Bug's Life and also Cars. I think he directed all the Cars movies and it's unfortunate, but once again, trying to separate the art, from the person he actually is. He made some very influential films, and this, Toy Story, of course, being the first full CGI animated thing, it was a big deal, so credit where credit's due,
No, absolutely. I mean, it's Pixar. I mentioned this in last week's one with Tim Smith. It came up on there. But Pixar as a studio was so incredibly smart in knowing that, okay, yes, these are films that are going to be aimed at kids.
Yeah.
But they knew that these cartoons are going to have enough for the adults sitting next to them to buy into.
Oh yeah, they're the ones. They're the ones taking the kids to the movies.
Yeah, and then to the toy store afterwards to buy the Buzz and the Woodies and so on and so forth.
I have them sitting up on a cabinet right now.
Yeah, I mean it's the joke I made last week. Is I've got the same. I think it's a 12-inch upside down Buzz in my kid's toy box. Even now, I'm gonna have to rescue him at some point and put him right side up. But and again, with the sequels, they spaced them out so well. Was have the young kids at first in '95, but then when the second one comes out, those kids have grown. It's 4 years later, so those 7, 8, 9, 10-year-olds, all 14 now.
Yeah,
and they've grown with the characters that are in there.
Yeah, and that's how it was for me. I mean,
yes.
I was a little bit older than Andy was, but by the time he gets to the third movie, I was maybe about 3 years older. But
yeah,
I mean, that's what really got me. You know, it made me think about things that possessions I have that meant a lot to me that maybe I hadn't looked at in a long time, whether it was pictures or something my dad gave to me or something like that. It makes you want to go back and look at it and pull it out and look at it, and that's what got to me. Yeah,
yes.
Definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm still not. Last week, I'm still not sure what to make a Toy Story 4 or the idea of that yet. Yeah,
until I get more details about what it's really about. I mean, I've heard things of maybe it's a romance with Bo Peep type of movie, and
yeah.
Ultimately, to me, what makes the Toy Story trilogy so perfect is ultimately it's an overarching, movie over three. It's the growing up of the characters through 3 films, and now that's been closed out. If you're just doing another movie that's kind of a standalone that's not leading anywhere, I don't know how much that's gonna be necessary. So,
yeah, we'll see. We'll see how we go. I mean, at the end of the day, same as anything else, if it's not any good, you've still got the trilogy.
Sure, and we have to give them the benefit of the doubt. They made three great Toy Story movies so far, so they're kind of in winning record right now.
Yeah,
so
and Pixar themselves, the only series of duds they've had are the Cars sequels.
Yeah, I mean, Monsters University is a fine movie. It's not bad, and Finding Dory is okay. I like it. It's not bad. So
Finding Dory is their most successful money wise.
It's crazy. It's probably because of Ellen. It's probably because of Ellen.
Yes.
Ellen became a lot bigger of a star after the first Finding Nemo, and then she's like huge now. So,
I think the problem with the Cars was because my boys love the Cars films, all 3 of them.
Yeah,
and I think it is that they were the ones that after the first one, which got both parents and children into it. The sequels were like, no, we don't need. They're going to buy the Cars. Let's go kids with this one. We don't need to tie the parents in so tightly with it, and the reviewers and everyone else with it. I just don't think there was enough to connect again with them. But the kids love it still. So
yeah, the first movie gets really into romanticizing the of course Route 66. Kind of the old school towns and things like that. Not forgetting about your past. Stuff like that. And then, I'm not sure much about the second movie. I know that was more of like a spy.
Yeah,
it didn't really have much of a theme to it at all.
It brought Michael Caine in to play on off of the English, and he's kind of a James Bond the car.
That one was the worst of the franchise, I think. And then the third movie was basically Days of Thunder.
Yes.
So. I mean, he has, post-traumatic stress after getting in a wreck and has to try to figure out how to get back to his glory, and, that's kind of the same. That's Days of Thunder.
Yeah. No. Okay, so we'll move on from there then, because I would say I could talk all day about Pixar and all the different.
Oh yeah,
Pixar
man,
films.
they got a great line of movies. I mean, there's a couple kind of stinkers to me in there, but for the most part, man, they're like 85% good. So.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Okay, but we'll crack on to the next one. What's your favourite quote from any film?
This was tougher than this. May be the toughest one for me, but I chose this quote because I think it's in one of the great scenes in cinematic history. I think this is just one of them scenes that I play over. It's one of them ones you just go online just to watch it, and it's from a movie called A Few Good Men, and it's the line of "You can't handle the truth."
Yeah.
And I think that movie and that line just speaks volumes to even today. You know, like about how the truths of warfare and the truths of everyday life sometimes are things you don't want to really know, but we do. We need to know them because that's the only way we're going to move forward as a country or as a people is to know the truth on things. And in this scene, these two guys are just going at it, and one guy, Tom Cruise plays, he knows all he has to do is tick this guy off.
Yeah.
And he'll spill the beans. And it's just such a great moment, man. And to me, I think Tom Cruise is a great actor when he gets the right material.
Yes.
And I think, of course, Jack Nicholson's one of the greats of all time.
Oh, absolutely.
I think he's won three Oscars, 2 leading Oscars, 1 supporting. And he's just he's not in this movie a lot, but when he's in the movie, his presence is felt.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That do you want to answer? I want the truth. You can't handle the truth. It's the monologue afterwards that always gets me.
Have you ever served in a forward area?
Yeah.
Have you served in an infantry unit? Have you ever put your life in another man's hands? Ask him to put yours in his?
Yeah.
Just like all that stuff. Like it's great.
Son, we live in a world that has wars, and in those wars, I've got in my memory guns. Who can you? I'm like, yeah. And that is peak Nicholson as well. That is him living and breathing those lines. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, fantastic quote. I don't know where it comes up on it's got to be quite high on the AFI.
I think it's pretty. I think it's in the top 20. I'm pretty sure it's it's pretty high.
It's not. But no, it's good. Good one. Okay. This is one that could flip flop either way however you want to do it. But who's your favourite actor or actress?
Well, I'll kind of do both, and I'll be very quick. Actor, I kind of hinted at it earlier. I decided to go with Robin Williams because Robin Williams to me was such a big part of my childhood, and just has continued to be an actor that as I watch more of his movies that I haven't seen, just shows me how special of just a person he was, and what he did for a lot of people. The joy he brought to a lot of people. And he's just, whether it's, Good Will Hunting, where he does his Oscar-nominated performance, or something like The World According to Garp. I don't know if you've seen that movie. That's another one where he plays kind of a wholesome. It's kind of a coming-of-age story. Yeah. And sure, there's some stinkers later on in his career, but. You always have the Good Morning Vietnams and just fantastic. He was just such a unique actor, and had certain elements that most actors wish they had. But actress wise, I was going to say Julianne Moore. And Julianne Moore, I think, is just one of them actresses that finds a way to stay under the radar somehow. But she always pops in things, whether it's this recent Kingsman film, which is not as good as the first one, but I thought she was kind of funny, and her part was kind of fun. And then Children of Men, just so many great roles.
That film.
Yeah, Children of Men's one of my favorites of all time. I think, of course, she won an Oscar for, I think it was Still Alice. And she plays a woman that's going through a dementia. I think she's losing her memory, and it's a tough movie to watch.
Yeah, I watched that with my wife. That's one that's not easy to watch through.
Yeah, she's just very versatile and I just think a likable actress that I every time she's in something, The Big Lebowski, that's a great one. Yeah. She takes risks. She's not somebody that will only play a certain type of role. She really goes for it in anything that she's in. So I think she's her, and I would say Cate Blanchett are the two, I think, best actresses working today.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, with Robin Williams, I first remember him in The Mork and Mindy,
Yes, of course, yes.
Showing my age, remembering him.
Well, I mean, I watched that stuff. I watched that stuff at Nick at Night when I was a kid. I was watching Nick at Night a lot, and that stuff would come on with Happy Days and all that. So
but it was, for me, what really would tinked him over was the two in the same year, 2002, when he was in Insomnia in 1 Hour Photo.
Oh man, Insomnia, man!
That performance in Insomnia, absolutely chill. And really, you don't expect it, because you say, "Oh, it's Robin Williams. Oh, it's nice, friendly, bubbly. It's Good Morning Vietnam. It's you." Oh, good God, no, he's not.
No. And 1 Hour Photo, that is beyond, like, he goes not only like as a personality wise, but the look is just so creepy.
Yeah. And it's something that I think to a certain extent that Jim Carrey tried to replicate when he did his Number 23 and everything else. He tried to just go, look at me, I'm a serious actor, I can do the creepy, I can do the bad guy. To a lesser extent, though, I think with Jim Carrey, I don't think he quite pulled it off as well.
Yeah, he's tried, and I think he's capable. I think he's very capable. Yes. I think it's just, like any actor or actress, it comes down to picking the right material, and I think he just maybe isn't as smart about what he's choosing. I think if you had to look at Jim Carrey's, I think best dramatic work, I think the closest you get is something like Sunshot of a Spotless Mind. I was trying to think of the word.
Yeah.
And I think also one that's kind of underrated is The Majestic. I think The Majestic's actually a very beautiful movie, and of course it's about there's an old cinema, and that stuff like that is enough to get my interest. But I think he definitely has the capabilities. Truman Show is another one where there's some comedy, but it's very much a dramatic story, and there's depth there, and I think he has the capabilities. He just doesn't always pick the right movies. So
no, absolutely. Okay, then now we get to the occasionally controversial ones. This is the ones I tend to have a little bit of fun with. These ones. What's your most overrated film?
All right, so I know that this is actually my overrated film, and let me kind of, before I kind of get into this, explain my version of overrated. And overrated doesn't mean that I don't like this movie.
Yep.
It doesn't mean that. It just means that I feel that how this movie's been kind of presented and talked about amongst most film people, that it gets a little bit too much praise. And I feel that this one has, and I know some people in other episodes of this podcast have picked this as their favorite movie. So they're probably not going to like that I say American Beauty is overrated. I know. And it's not that I don't get what the movie's trying to say, but I do find the movie has kind of aged poorly. I don't think it really, obviously with the kind of Kevin Spacey once again, and the kind of going after a young high school girl doesn't look good. That doesn't age very well. And to me, some of the pretentious elements of it, whether it be a guy videoing a bag flying around in the air, or something, it's, to me, the movie just is maybe a little bit too heavy-handed. It tries to be it thinks it's smarter than it is. And it's a beautiful movie. It's beautifully shot. Sam Mendes' first movie. I mean, come on. I mean, Oscar-winning movie for your first movie. That doesn't get much better than that. But
it said 5 Oscars: Best Picture, Best Actor, Best Director, Best Screenplay, Best Cinematography, and 3 other nominations.
Yeah, it's definitely a good movie. I don't ever tell anybody that it's not a good movie, but I just don't think that it was that good. And I think over the years has gotten less and less, memorable for me. I mean, I would like to go back. I've watched this movie a couple times, and it's a movie that has its moments where of course, remember certain images, but ultimately it's kind of forgettable for me, and just kind of, I find, tries too hard. And that's just one guy's opinion, and you know, if you guys like that movie, then good on you. Yeah.
No, not a problem. It's one of I've threatened to get a big button to put on the side of the microphone for when someone hits a film that could possibly be. I mean, you saved yourself nicely for saying I like the film. I just don't. So you probably saved yourself. From
okay. So I would have been ejected.
Oh,
like somehow your butt knocked me out of my seat all the way here in North Carolina, and I'm like, how did he do that? Well, you know.
I mean, that was it. I mean, there was one really early on, and it was, oh god, I can't remember which one it was now, but it's like, oh no, it's Forrest Gump.
Ah, yes.
So it was like Forrest Gump over. I mean, I absolutely adore Forrest Gump, and I would admit that made you. It's like the title of the podcast came out and everything on that one. It's.
Well, you know, and you know, I'm with you, man, because I mean, you know, I think I've heard some people say the same thing, saying that Forrest Gump is an overrated film. It's really not that good, but I think that's just, you know, that's sometimes it is when a movie is so overly praised. Yeah. It's gonna have its haters.
Yeah.
So, you know, for instance, La La Land. La La Land is so overly praised that eventually people started to say that they didn't like it.
Yes.
And that just happens sometimes. That's how people are in the world. They want to do the opposite of what everybody else is doing to make themselves feel significant. Yeah. So that, you know, they'll hate on something that everybody likes.
No, absolutely.
You know, but I will say the right answer to overrated is always Avatar, as you've said.
Well, that is absolutely true. That will always be the right answer.
Yeah, because I don't know how that movie makes $2.5 billion when it's we've seen the movie like 5 other times in other movies.
It's Fern Gully.
Yeah, it's Fern Gully.
With
it's
better graphics.
Wolves. It's a bunch of other movies mashed into one, and I don't know why people saw it that many times.
No, it's.
I saw it one time in theaters and fell asleep as I was watching it. That's how much I was impressed by that movie.
Yeah, I've only ever once fallen asleep in the theatre, and in my defence, it was about 10 o'clock in the evening at night I was watching it. I'd been at work at 2 o'clock that morning. I'd done a day's work, but it was Con Air I fell asleep to.
Yeah.
One of the most loud, bombastic.
Put the bunny back in the box.
Yeah. I fell asleep during that, but
how dare you?
I'd been up for like 20 hours or something.
How dare you fall asleep in Nick Cage movie, one of the greatest actors of all time?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Okay, right. We'll flip this on its head now, though. This one's probably a little bit less controversial. But what's your most underrated film?
Nah, yeah, this isn't controversial. This is another opportunity to talk about something maybe somebody hasn't heard of. You know, and this is a movie. What's that? I'm sorry.
Me, yes, I've not heard of this movie.
Oh, you haven't heard of this one?
No.
Yeah, this is a movie called Hesher, and it stars Joseph Gordon-Levitt, and it's a very small independent film that came out. I think it was like 2010, maybe.
Okay.
And basically, what happens is you have this kid whose father, who lives alone with his father and his grandmother. The father's played by Rainn Wilson from The Office and some other things. Mm-hmm. And basically, the mother dies, and it's kind of this family dealing with this recent death, and their world's falling apart. And then suddenly, out of nowhere, the kid runs into this random kind of homeless man type, played by Joseph Gordon-Levitt, who's kind of like a metalhead, does not give a crap about anybody, and basically takes over his life, takes over this kid's life. He moves in with the kid, lives in his house, eats their food, sleeps in their garage, plays guitar, and he kind of, in a sense, and what I think is really great about the movie is he kind of, throughout the movie, is kind of the outlet for what this family is feeling. You know, the things that this family wishes they could do, he does.
Yeah.
You know, because he doesn't give a crap. He'll do whatever. And I think it's just it's very funny, and it's very touching, and it's just, and of course it's a movie where you're like, wait, is that Joseph Gordon-Levitt? Yeah. He's like playing this metalhead. He's got long hair. You know, he's got this tattoo on the back of his back that has a middle finger. You know, like just, it's so off the wall, but I think it's a very touching movie and a very hidden gem of a movie that I think more people should see.
Okay, fantastic. It's not one that I've seen. It's not one I've heard of. I'll be honest with you, which is strange because I genuinely like Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
Yeah, and it also I meant to say it also has Natalie Portman plays a small part in it.
Yes.
And she's she kind of plays somebody a little different than usual. So it's got a nice little cast, and it's funny, man. There's some moments in this movie I don't want to give them away because they're just great, but yeah, it's definitely worth checking out.
Okay, fantastic. All right, so let's have a little bit of fun with something here. Then, what film that you like that no one would expect?
All right, so I was gonna go in a very guilty pleasure area, like I was gonna because I do some commentary thingies. I've done a few of them for this line of movies called Trauma films, which are these made by Trauma, and they're like super. Like they're basically they're bad movies, but instead of going there, I decided to go with probably the least, what people would think is the genre that I would least fall into, which is kind of the romantic comedy or the chick flick as we used to call it.
Yep.
And that is a movie called The Devil Wears Prada.
Okay.
And the thing is I know a lot of guys that like this movie.
Yeah. I've seen it. I like
good.
This movie.
Yeah, there you go. But I think for a lot of people, if they, outside looking in, a movie about fashion, and it's mostly a female cast. It's not, you got Stanley Tucci in there, but mostly it's, Emily Blunt, Anne Hathaway, of course, Meryl Streep, who once again gets nominated for a movie because she gets nominated for everything, which is kind of becoming a joke now. When you get nominated for Into the Woods for that role she played in that movie, I'm like, it's getting a little ridiculous.
Yeah.
No. But this movie, I just there's something about it. I don't know if it's my crush on Anne Hathaway or
it's my crush on Emily Blunt.
And Emily Blunt, yeah. I mean, shit, Meryl Streep. Let's just go the whole way. Meryl Streep, But there's just something about it, man. It's who doesn't like a rags to riches? Somebody that starts out at the bottom and works their way up, and of course, when you're thinking about what she's working for, it might not be the best thing to promote to an audience, like trying to be skinnier or trying to look that way is the best way. But I guess by the end of the movie, it kind of tells you that, what she was working for was not, she lost her boyfriend. She lost her kind of the things that were supposed to make her happy in her life. And that, there's something about the movie. I don't know what it is, man. I don't know if maybe I'm secretly into fashion. And I don't know what it is, but I like the movie. It's an enjoyable movie.
No, I was gonna say I've watched it. I like it. It's not one that I've owned. It's not one that I will ever seek out.
Come on, man! I know you own like 5 copies of this movie.
Shush, you're ruining my rep.
Sorry. I knew that was supposed to be. Sorry, that was off top. Never mind.
Yeah, man, come on.
Sorry.
No, it's a good. As you say, it helps that there is. I'm being totally misogynistic. It helps there's some eye candy to watch. Yes,
and look. If you guys can't, if you can't take that, if you can't take a little bit of that, because look, females act the same way towards men. I know when you watch a movie, with what's the movie with all the male strippers in it?
Oh God, I'm embarrassed to know. It's Magic Mike.
Magic Mike. The females all went to that movie, and for one reason.
One reason only.
We get we get our movies, you get your movies. We're all happy.
Yeah, so. Except just because the movies that we like watching happens to be ones that they like watching as well, because it's got the chick friendly.
Good. That's good for everybody.
Absolutely, it's all good. Okay, let's get ourselves out of trouble and move on to the next question. What's your favourite classic?
All right, so this is a movie I'm really happy to be able to talk about because it's become one of my favorites of all time, and it's a classic. It's a movie back in the 1942. A movie called "It Happened One Night."
Yep.
And this was a Best Picture winner. It has Clark Gable in it, and I'm forgetting the actress's name. But
this is it's Claudette.
Yeah, Claudette Colbert.
That's it.
this is a very simple story about this girl who's kind of like a rich brat, and she wants to marry this guy, so she kind of runs away from her father, who wants to stop the marriage. And on her way up to New York, she runs into Clark Gable, who is this news reporter and is looking for a story to kind of save his job. And when they meet on the road, they kind of fall for each other, and the chemistry is just so magnetic. I mean, and Clark Gable has never been more charming. Like he almost made me fall in love with him. I mean, I'm a straight man, but I was like, man, Clark Gable's getting me, man. He's really charming in this movie, man. I don't know what it is, but it's funny, and it's definitely probably my favorite romantic movie. And this is directed by Frank Capra, one of the great filmmakers of all time. It's a Wonderful Life. Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. A lot of great films. And this one, I recently showed a friend of mine this movie for the first time, and he loved it. So this is one that's a must for people if they haven't seen it.
No, absolutely. It's one that I came to obviously really late compared to when it was out, but No. You were born in 1952, right? You're really old, right? Right around the time the movie came out, right?
I'm
ancient. No, I mean it's only within sort of like the last 10 years that I've watched this. But yeah, it's such a charming film. It's a perfect. It's almost the epitome. It's a Sunday afternoon film.
Yes, definitely. It's very easy watch.
Yes.
Very straightforward, and just you just fall in love with these characters, man.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's the first picture to get the Grand Slam at the Oscars.
Yes.
That's always.
And this was a movie they didn't think was going to be good. Like delving into some special features on the Blu-ray I have, that they kind of threw this movie together. This movie was filmed very quickly, and they did not know that it. Actually, the actress Claudette Colbert, Claudette Colbert.
Yeah.
She kind of was hard to work with apparently on this movie, because she was
every day apparently.
Complained and and asked for a lot more money than they were kind of needing to, but they needed to fill the spot, and they wanted her, and they just and then it ended up, of course, winning her an Oscar. So
yeah. This Clark Gable. The only reason Clark Gable was actually a film is he was loaned by MGM to the studio as a punishment for his affair with Joan Crawford.
Yeah, back in the days when people, actors signed contracts with studios and they only could do movies in the studio.
This is like, can you imagine that now? As okay, Tom, Tom, I appreciate you got a contract with Warner Brothers. You're going to go and do this DC. You're going to do this Marvel movie. Okay,
yeah, really.
Just this one, because the Mummy tanked. You're going to go and do that over there.
Well, he almost played Tony Stark. So I mean,
oh god, that would have been appalling. Yeah, I want to be Tony
Tom
Stark.
Cruise. I love Tom Cruise, but I'm glad that it didn't happen.
Yeah,
so.
I want to be Iron Man, but you need to be able to see my face at all times. So the faceplate needs to be transparent. Yeah, no, that's not going to work.
Tom, sorry.
No. Okay, fantastic. We'll come to the penultimate one. What's your film with the best soundtrack?
All right, so this is one I actually changed, and the one I originally had was a great soundtrack too, which was Almost Famous, which is another one of my favorite films. But I just go with this other film because I think a lot of times in this category, we pick movies where the soundtracks are established music, music from really great musicians and things like that. So I wanted to pick a movie with the soundtrack that is original, mostly an original soundtrack, and that's a movie called Sing Street that came out a couple years ago.
Yes.
Yeah, and by a director named John Carney, who also did two other films that are kind of thematically the same, which I have I don't know if anybody else has coined this trilogy, but I call it the Love and Music trilogy, which starts with a movie called Once, which got nominated. The main song in that movie won an Oscar, and then he did a movie called Begin Again with Mark Ruffalo and Keira Knightley, and then he did this movie Sing Street, where he kind of went back to his home country of Ireland and did this movie about these kids who where this one main kid kind of falls for this girl and says that he's in a band, and so he on a whim starts a band, and it becomes kind of his outlet for his problems at home. His family's kind of falling apart, and he uses his music and his friendship and with his with his bandmates and the girl he's kind of fallen for to figure things out. And I think the music in this movie is so catchy and so. John Carney and he has some writing partners wrote a lot of this original music, and I think it's fantastic. Came out the same year as La La Land, and it pisses me off that none of these, specifically a song called "Drive It Like You Stole It," did not get nominated for an Oscar, and it still bugs me.
Okay, fantastic. It's I remember the film. I don't think I've actually seen it. The soundtrack is passing me by right now, but.
Yeah, okay. It's definitely one of the movies where you get it's bringing the team together. You got all these kids with their own personalities coming together to make this. And of course, they start out they suck because they really they don't know how to work together yet. But then eventually they come into their own. And it's I love movies with music. Like we talk School of Rock, where you see people come together to make great music, and I love stuff like that. So
okay. Fantastic. Right, we've reached the end. The final question. Here we go. We got there. It says, what's your favourite film franchise?
Well, this one could have been a lot of answers once again, but I wanted to go with one I haven't heard mentioned on here yet, and that is one. It is the Mission Impossible franchise.
Okay.
And I think the unique thing about this franchise is if you look at who directs these movies. Every movie is directed by a pretty well-known director.
Yes.
The first movie is directed by Brian De Palma. Mm-hmm. The second film is directed by John Woo, which...
We'll ignore that. We'll move on to the third one.
Yeah, we'll move on. But he is a very acclaimed director. He's somebody that we know. The third movie is directed by J.J. Abrams, which was his first film. And then then our next director for Ghost Protocol was Brad Bird. This was his first live-action movie.
Yes.
And then... The Rogue Nation and the new film coming out, Fallout, is directed by Christopher McQuarrie, who most was a writer. He did things like Way of the Gun and some other, and Valkyrie, I think, with Bryan Singer.
Yes.
He wrote that, and he directed the hell out of Rogue Nation. So I'm glad he's coming back, and it's just I think that this is one of the most solid film franchises out there. I think other than the second film. All these movies are very entertaining, and they keep pushing the envelope. Of course, especially with Tom Cruise, who wants to apparently kill himself, ending this franchise.
Yeah. That'll be. It's as you say. The second one's got some but good parts to it.
Oh yeah. It's not totally a loss. It's not like The Mummy.
No, God no. It's not even like The Mummy 2.
No.
But it's. Yeah, it's one where it's got better as it goes along.
Oh yeah, I mean it's got John Woo's style, and it's got some fun stuff in there, and it's got him hanging off of a cliff, and but I can pass that for Ghost Protocol to me is probably my favorite.
Is that the one that introduced Jeremy Renner onto it? That one's Ghost Protocol.
Yes,
where they're in Dubai.
Dubai, yeah, yes. The tallest. He climbs the tallest building in the world.
Yes, with just some sucker gloves.
I mean, Tom Cruise, man, you're crazy in real life, but you're I like you're crazy in the movies.
Yes,
he's absolutely willing to do what it takes to bring a unique experience to audience, and I think that's commendable. And I think he's a good actor when he wants to be. I mean, if you look at movies like what he did with Paul Thomas Anderson.
Magnolia,
him and Magnolia. I mean, Few Good Men. I mean, he's Born on the 4th of July.
Spielberg on Minority Report, even though it's a slick action sci-fi, he does well in there.
Yeah, I mean, even War of the Worlds. I think he's good in War of the Worlds. Even though Dakota Fanning won't stop crying the whole movie. He's pretty good in the movie. I mean, I think he's a very good actor. He's just one of them guys that his image overtakes his, skills sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely.
But
it's just under $1 billion for the total grosses for the Mission Impossible series so far, which is not bad for five films going into 6.
For an well, technically not an original franchise because it's based on a TV series, but it, ultimately it doesn't really fit the TV series. I mean, it's kind of strayed from. I mean, it's gone into some craziness. So it's like
the first one was very much this is a Mission Impossible. This is the film of
a TV episode
series.
into a movie. Yeah, but they've gotten so much more crazy with these stunts and things that it's almost gotten closer to James Bond than it is that. So.
Very much so. My one problem with Tom Cruise is I can't help but ever since the photo of his centre tooth line. Have you seen the photo of it?
I don't think so. No.
Google image search Tom Cruise centre tooth line. He had his teeth done. So that when he's looking at one way and his smile, it's a full smile. But when you look down the middle, draw a centre line down the centre of his face, his 2 front teeth are way off centre. It's totally bizarre. Once you've seen it, you will not unsee it. And every time you see it smile,
I can't. That'll ruin any other Tom Cruise movie for me now. I can't. Well, thanks, man.
No. Hey, the amount of times you throw me under the bus on this episode, you're more than welcome.
I didn't know that you owning 5 copies of Devil Wears Prada was a big deal, but whatever.
6. I don't. Do you mind?
Oh, sorry, 6. Yeah. I know you don't like odd numbers.
No, not at all. Not at all. And we are done.
I feel so much better.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
No problem. Before I go, I want to say thanks to you for letting me come on. And I mean, this is fun to be able to talk movies. And hey, look, I think, and I don't know if you thought about this, but you should do once you've went through a lot of people on this show, you should do a second list and bring back some of the people with different questions. Have you thought about that?
Yeah, no, that is on the list. I mean, I've got a couple.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I've got a couple of big episodes coming up soon that hopefully I'll be able to tie in, and then we'll see where it goes from there. But yeah, the idea is to revisit once we've done and switch the questions up, or ask them if anything that they've been through has changed, and because I know mine when I did my.
I was going to say, you should have somebody come on and ask you the questions instead of just...
I sort of interviewed myself for the very first one, just as a baseline one.
Yeah.
And it changed. I mean, my favourite action at the time was, and it still is, it's up there, was The Bourne Identity.
Yeah.
But then about 3 or 4 weeks after I watched it, I rewatched John Wick.
The first John Wick, man.
The first John Wick just blows you away as a straight up action film. That blows, But there we go.
It's tough, man. Sometimes a movie skips your mind when you're trying to make a list for something. Mm-hmm. Sometimes something just completely falls off guard for some reason, and then you're like, oh shoot, how did I forget that? I mean, it's tough, man. Lists are tough. That's why I'm sitting here in the hot seat in North Carolina, and I'm really hot actually right now. Because it's like 95 degrees outside, so.
And it's 25 to 1 in the morning over here.
Oh well, I'm. You know what? I'm glad that you were able to stay up that late for me. I appreciate that, man.
Not a problem. Okay, so thank you once again to this week's guest, Steve Billings. Just to remind you guys, we're on iTunes and Podbean, so please download the episodes, follow the Podbean feed, or via iTunes. Please rate and review us, so I know sort of that you're liking what you're seeing. Steve, anything you'd like to plug again?
Right now I'm not doing much in this talking movies right now, but I do comedy sketch. I do a lot of videos for sketch comedy. Me and some buddies, we do a lot of these really crazy episodes of this show I'm doing called Showbiz, which is just about these dudes that get together. They're supposed to be doing like a film-related news show, but really it's just a bunch of hijinks that kind of pays homage to movies, and it's very childish and vulgar, and I would say kids don't watch it. But it's on a channel on YouTube called Film Club Central. We got like a season 1, and we're working on season 2 right now. So,
fantastic, brilliant. Right, if you fancy being in the hot seat and being on the podcast yourself, then you can email the pod on thatmadeyourlist@outlook.com. We're on Twitter with @thatmadeyour. We also have our own Facebook page, That Made Your List, where you can find all the old episodes as well as a pinned post of the questions asked. So please get involved on there, comment on the posts, tell me if you think I've been harsh or if you think someone's made a poor choice about American Beauty. Just please don't be rude.
Come at me.
Don't be rude. Let's be polite. Okay, I've been Dave Goodger. He's been Steve Billings, and this has been That Made Your List.